Well, there it is. Hi guys, I'm here to talk about Hearthstone, Goblins versus Gnomes, what we learned at Blizzcon and what we can expect, my thoughts. So, let's start off with the Blizzcon. Yeah, Ben Bro did a good presentation, which I will probably give you a clip of at the end of this video. But they're going to be releasing Goblins versus Gnomes as the expansion for Hearthstone, and that's going to be rolling out, well, today for the Americans and the Oceanics, and I think Europe and everyone else gets it on the 9th, so tomorrow. So yeah, there's pretty exciting stuff actually. I'm quite curious. Hearthstone is a super RNG game, which is about 0% skill and 100% luck. And I hate games that are based on luck, yet I still keep playing Hearthstone. It's a love-hate relationship for me with Hearthstone. I find it super convenient, especially when I'm creating thumbnails or outros. For example, when I finish this video, I'm going to do a thumbnail and an outro, and I'm probably going to end up playing fucking Hearthstone because I can do my moves, then I can wait for the, I was about to say dickhead, but I may as well say it now because I just said it, dickhead on the other side, to take like 40 seconds to make his moves, and that'll give me time to do my things because I've just finished work. I got home. I don't really want to do work. Although, to be fair, this is stuff I enjoy, but that's the work side of it, doing the outros and the thumbnails and all of the uploading the tags, etc., etc., etc. And all of that, obviously, takes its toll. Sometimes you just want to chill out, relax, and do nothing. But I can't quite do that because obviously I have to put out content for you guys, and I'm starting to do that a bit more now on this channel as well as the Witty Warcraft 1. So, having said that, Hearthstone does serve a purpose for me, and sometimes I end up playing it even when I've completed my daily quests. Unbelievable, right? I actually play it for fun. And yeah, speaking of the RNG elements of it, this is something that makes the game fun. Now, you love it when you're winning, but you hate it when you're losing. Now that sounds like a typical video game, right? Yeah, it is, and Hearthstone's got it buckets and spades. So I made a few notes of what we're going to be expecting to see. Return of the Pirate and Murloc decks. They're going to be coming back, and they're going to be even stronger than before, particularly Shamans with Murloc decks. They've got quite a few Murloc-specific cards, and I'm not going to do a video about any of the specific cards. Maybe in the future, if you guys want to see stuff like that, then maybe I'll venture into exploring cards, maybe builds and things like that. We'll see how things go. I'll judge on your responses because, obviously, if there's no audience for it, then there's not much point putting stuff out there for it. So you guys have got to be communicative in regards to what you would like to see. Pirates, I like pirates, so that's warriors and pirates. That'd be cool. I think Death Rattle is going to be even stronger than previously, which right now the meta, Death Rattles are all over the place. So the reason why I'm thinking that, I'm not a Hearthstone pro. You might completely disagree, and if you do, then feel free to put it in the comments as to what you think. But I think Death Rattles could be OP because of a lot of the cards seem to be very destructive and explosive, as they say. So, stuff doing random damage, 1 to 4 damage to a random minion. If that hits your Death Rattle, that could be really good for you. You never know. It depends on your situation. And the same thing with the bouncing glaive thing that just keeps bouncing until it kills something. That could do lots of damage to your Death Rattle, possibly kill off your egg. So, Nerubian egg's pretty much always getting played, but I'm pretty much expecting it to get played quite a lot now. Yeah, I say that RNG is going to be now off the scale because it was before, and like I say, it makes the game fun to play. It's pretty much why it's as popular and as successful as it is, because it's pretty much just as much fun to watch as it is to play. Speaking of which, people can spectate. I've noticed people have started doing that now in my games. I'm just literally playing it to do with my dailies mostly. I don't even sort of like hardcore play it or try to play it too strategic. I just chuck stuff out and hope that it goes well. Or if I've got a mission to do 40 spells, you better believe I'm going to pick a mage and pick every single spell card and just use it until I die. Simple as that. Yeah, so I'm saying that basically it's going to be a lot of fun to watch and play when you're doing well, because you're going to be getting crazy in balance. But when you're losing, my goodness, is that going to be stressful. That's going to be really stressful. The mech spare parts, this is really good. It adds more options, and well, there's going to be a lot more mechs with this expansion, and with that there's the chance for these 1 mana cards that either boost health or damage or give some sort of effect, maybe Wind Fury, I don't know. Little things like that you can add onto your minions or your hero or something like that. This is really good because at the moment I feel like the game's almost too obvious, and standard in the way you play it. Like, you don't have many options a lot of the time. It's like, here's your 4 cards. There's his 4 cards. You kind of know what he's got. You know what you've got. And you pretty much know what you're going to be playing before, regardless of what they play. Or you pretty much know what they're going to be playing, so you know what you're going to be playing anyway, if this makes sense. Whereas when you got like a little buff that can give a minion 1/1, that changes the strategy completely. That changes every card on the board, how it's going to be playing. So this is probably the best thing they've done to actually add... I can't say skill. I just can't do it. But strategy. They're going to add strategy, okay? So I'm really liking that. But again, that's going to really piss you off when you pretty much want to clear a paladin board and you're just about to do it. And then he sticks a 1/1 on top of his Chillwind Yeti and you do like 5 damage and that makes it now a 5/6. You can't finish it off. Just something as an example, basically. So I think this expansion is going to be very, very successful because it's just going to be super RNG, fun pretty much, and people are going to love that. And it already does really well on Twitch, and I think it's just going to do even better, to be quite frank with you. And this is going to breathe a lot of life because there's something like 120 or so cards. And speaking of which, I'm probably going to purchase some, I reckon, tomorrow. I'll do a stream. In fact, I'll probably do a stream tonight. And if I do, I'll put another video for that. Or if not, just take this video as word that I will be doing that. Because I want to play the Goblins versus Gnomes arena. Because they did decide, as a little enticement to players, to give people 1 free arena run. And this is with like the Goblin versus Gnome cards involved. So some of the cards will be Goblin versus Gnome cards, mechs and stuff like that. So I'll probably be streaming that later tonight if you want to check that out, evening time, so about 1900 CET or something like that, 1800 UK time, which is basically 6 o'clock in the evening. And if you're American or around that area, then it's going to be more or less in the afternoon, early afternoon. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Hearthstone expansion. I hope you guys are as well. Let me know what you think about it. And how much it's going to make you rage. As for me, I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what I wanted to cover. So I will be doing some more videos on this if you guys want to see it. Otherwise, take care. I'll see you later.
So all of these stats refer to basically all of your guys' games. We look at every game you play, and we pull interesting statistics based on the results of those games. Let me ask you a question. What do you think the worst card in Hearthstone is? All right. So the answer is it depends on what you're measuring. And one of the ways that we measure how bad a card is or how good a card is when you have drawn that card, how likely are you to win the game? And it's interesting, we could use when you play a card, how likely are you to win the game? But the answer to that question, the best card is Pyroblast, because you only use it to end the game. You don't ever play Pyroblast and then keep playing. It's like a finisher. So you only play Pyroblast like 40% of the time, but sits in your hand dead the rest of the time. So this statistic is a little bit more helpful for determining the worst card. The worst card using this statistic is Magma Rager. If you draw Magma Rager, you have a 29% chance to win the game. Now this is a little misleading. The best players in Hearthstone know that Magma Rager is no good, and they're not playing Magma Rager. So if they were, it might be a little better, because if Galento plays Magma Rager, he's probably going to win more than 29% of his games regardless. So that's something you have to consider when you're looking at this particular statistic. Okay, knowing that, how bad do you think Angry Chicken is? It surprisingly is not awful. You win about 47% of the games you draw Angry Chicken. It's not bad. This guy is pretty medium, actually. About 50% chance to win if you draw a Defender of Argus. You only play a Defender of Argus about 80% of the time, and part of the reason for that is he's 4 mana, and you have to have 2 guys you want to play it on, or 1. Usually you don't play him alone, and so he's a little harder to finagle to get a good place to play this guy, so he's not played as often. When you do play him, you win 52.6% of the time. That's good. It's pretty good. He gets played a lot more often than Angry Chicken. About 556 of these get played for each Angry Chicken. Okay. What do you think the best card in Hearthstone is? It's not Undertaker. And this is according to these statistics, and this is from a brief period in October. The best card during this time period I checked in October, Baron Geddon. What? When you draw him, 56% chance to win. It's not crazy. Only 70% of the times where he's drawn, he actually gets played. And if you do play him, you win 60% of the time. Now, this is even more misleading than any of those stats I've shared with you, because the deck this guy gets played in almost exclusively during the period I was checking is Control Warrior. And that deck wins most often when the more cards it draws. And if the game ends very early, it usually means the Warrior lost. They're trying to get the game to go long. So in those cases, when you win, a lot of the cards in your deck, we mark, okay, this card just won a game. And when you lose, very few of the cards in that deck, we mark, this card just lost the game when it was drawn. So actually, this is very hard to compare against other cards. It's very useful to compare against other cards that are played in this deck. So it's not really the best card, but it's probably the best Warrior card. So, and these are the kind of statistics that we look at to help balance cards. They're not foolproof. Obviously, as you can see, they can be very misleading. But we look at this. We look at specific players' decks. We look at the top 1% of players, the top 5% of players. We just look and see how everyone's doing and see what they're playing, and then we nerf their cards. All right, so that's a little bit about some of the cards you're playing today. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Curse of Naxxramas. Came out earlier this year. It was an adventure, very different than what we're doing with an expansion. It had a couple new things that are really cool. The single-player missions are awesome. There's a ton of them representing the different quarters of Naxxramas. And there's two types, normal missions and heroic missions. For the normal missions, we wanted them to be beatable. You paid money or gold for this expansion. You have cards that you really want from these missions. And it turns out it took an average of 2 attempts to beat each of these normal mode bosses, which is pretty good. That means people are beating them, and we want that. And on the high end, it took about 10 attempts for some players to beat some of the harder missions. So still not terrible. For the heroic mode bosses, it took an average of 9 attempts to beat each of the bosses. And some players took up to 65 attempts against Kel'Thuzad. It's a lot harder, which is great. We wanted it to be hard. We wanted you to go back to your collection manager and use cards you haven't used in a really long time or never. Maybe you play Magma Rager against the dog, right? Gluth. Maybe. So that's great. And besides single-player missions, we added 30 new cards. And this is like a full quarter of the cards that are coming in the next expansion. And it made a huge impact on the metagame. But I wanted to talk specifically about one of these cards today. And that card is Web Spinner, which everybody loves. I love Web Spinner. I was talking to the pros behind the Hearthstone stage. They were saying how much they love this card. And that's despite the fact that it's got this word in the card text, which is a little bit of a buzzword. I was on the Hearthstone Reddit, and this player named Gooba took a survey of what players like and dislike about Hearthstone. And he turned all these responses into a word cloud. It looks like this. This is what players like. The bigger the word, the more often that word appeared in the responses about what players like about Hearthstone. And here's that same word cloud for what people dislike about Hearthstone. RNG stands for Random Number Generator. So very high on the list of what people don't like. So, also Sue, yes. I see it. Thank you. And it makes sense. When you lose a game where you feel like you were very, you should have won. You had 5 copies of this card in your deck, and where is that card? And your opponent top decks perfectly every time. It just doesn't seem to be going your way. And it feels like the work you put into this game didn't matter. You think that games fall along this spectrum. Luck is on the left side. Strategy, skill is on the right side, and every time something lucky happens, it takes away from the skill. This is actually not how it works. It's more complicated than this. It's not a single continuum. The more luck does not decrease the amount of skill required to play a game. It looks like this. There can be games all over this chart Here's an example. Tic-tac-toe has no randomness, almost no skill required to play tic-tac-toe. There's no tic-tac-toe world championships. I can teach you to master this game immediately. If you don't know how to already, come see me. Monopoly is a game with very high luck. Very few opportunities to show your strategic dominance in this game. You roll a dice, you land on Park Place, and you win. Chess is a great example of a game with very little randomness and very high skill. But there's something interesting about games in this category, and that is because there's no randomness, they can play out very similarly. Often players memorize a series of openings, and it takes a while for you to get into territory that you're not familiar with. And so at the very highest levels of play, chess is often about memorization. In fact, Bobby Fischer, one of the greatest chess players of all time, recommended changing the rules of chess and randomizing the back row of units every time you play. He called it Fischer random chess to help combat this really big problem with games that don't have any randomness. And then there's games in the top right corner like poker and Hearthstone. These are games that have both high randomness and high skill. Skill is still very important to Hearthstone. And you can just see this because the players who are really good and have a ton of skill at Hearthstone just keep winning games. Players like Kalento just wins over and over again. So it's not just a 2D continuum like this. And there's two things that games in this category have that are innate to this category that are awesome. And the first of those things is they present novel scenarios. When you're playing a game of Hearthstone, something happens and you've never seen it happen before, and you have to figure out how to respond to it. You can't memorize every possible play. Web Spinner gives you my Exna, and you're like, wow, I never played with my Exna. How do I beat someone with my Exna? And when you respond better to these novel scenarios than other players, when you're a better problem solver than other players, you actually win more games because of this. So this particular attribute of these games can actually increase the skill required to play Hearthstone. Another great thing about games in this category is that they enable awesome player stories, and this is one of the reasons why Hearthstone is amazing. Is you get on the ladder and something crazy happens. Oh, he thought steal my sacrificial pact and killed my own Jiraxis. No! And those kinds of moments are awesome. Here's an example of a really wonderful version of that. This is a game Trump played. He played really well to survive this long into this game. He's got one card left in his deck. It's his opponent's turn. He's about to end the turn. He's got Ragnaros in play. If Ragnaros hits the Acolyte of Pain, he draws his last card, takes 1 fatigue damage, dies immediately. Obviously, if he hits Jaina, that's game immediately. The only hope Trump has is for Ragnaros to hit the Silenced Doomsayer, and then Trump can burn him out with the remaining cards in his hand. And Trump is freaking out. Ragnaros, of course, does hit the Doomsayer. Trump is able to finish the game, and he just keeps yelling, "Holy crap! Holy crap!" And this is an exciting game. This got picked up by a bunch of news outlets. It was amazing, and it's because of these amazing moments of randomness that create these incredible stories. It still required an incredible amount of skill on Trump's part to survive even this long and to be able to finish the game, but it made a great story. So novel scenarios and player stories, those two things together make Hearthstone fun, and that's what's the most fun about Hearthstone. It's still got a ton of skill, but there's a lot of randomness. It makes the game awesome.